Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
In the headlines this Saturday, March 13th, Catholics worldwide celebrate 8 years of Francis as Pope. Lebanese authorities work with Syria to ensure the voluntary and safe return of Syrian refugees. And we look ahead to 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines. In the Vatican, I am Francesca Merlo. Well wishes have been pouring in today for Pope Francis as he marks the 8th anniversary of his election to the papacy. As Devin Watkins reports, Catholics around the world are expressing joy for 8 years, celebrating the joy of the gospel.
On March 13, 2013, Jorge Mario Bergoglio was elected to the chair of St. Peter. He is the first Jesuit, the first from Latin America, and the first pope with the name Francis. These 8 years of his pontificate have been marked by initiatives and reforms to engage all Christians in a new missionary impetus. His overriding goal has been to bring the love of Jesus to all humanity. His pontificate seems to start work from the ground up, paying special attention to the existential and geographical peripheries of the world. Pope Francis has invited all people, not only Catholics, to rediscover the original freshness of the gospel. He constantly urges the faithful to take up a new fervor and dynamism so that the love of Jesus can truly reach everyone. And as he marks the 8th anniversary of his pontificate on Saturday, people of all walks of life are praising his leadership and spirit of service. The bishops of Latin America have thanked the Pope for these 8 years lived in the joy of the gospel. They praise his encouragement to Catholics to be missionary disciples, leaving behind all the trappings of wealth and privilege in favor of helping the least among us. Italy's bishops point out that Pope Francis has helped us understand that we are all in need of one another. No man is an island, they say, and the Pope offers constant guidance to help us build a future together without excluding anyone. The Italian bishops thank him for the gift of his words and gestures which point the Church toward a new phase of evangelization. It wasn't only bishops applauding the anniversary. One influential laywoman who signs herself as a daughter of the Church expresses her appreciation for the Pope's desire to be guided by the Holy Spirit in the footsteps of St. Francis of Assisi. Maria Lia Zervino, the president of the World Union of Catholic Women's Organizations and Consecrated Virgins, as well as a native Argentinian like the Pope, thanks him for his efforts to put all the meat on the grill, as they say in his homeland. Giving it all one's got, she says, is what's needed as the Church works to heal the wounds of the past and blaze a path toward a new future. As we celebrate these 8 years, we join everyone in wishing many more. Ad multos annos, Pope Francis. I'm Devin Watkins.
In world news, Lebanese authorities are currently working with Syria to ensure voluntary and safe return of Syrian refugees. Nathan Morley reports.
There are currently over 1 million Syrian refugees registered with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in the Lebanon. However, the Lebanese government says the exact number of Syrians in the country stands at around 1.5 million. Now, the Lebanese Social Affairs Minister, Ramzi Musharrafia, has said the country is attempting to reduce the financial and social burden by Syrian refugees there. The comments come following his visit to Syria to meet with officials, during which they agreed on the steps which need to be adopted to ensure a safe return of Syrian refugees back to their homeland. According to reports, Syrian authorities assured that a dignified and safe return of refugees is absolutely guaranteed. After a decade of war, 9 in 10 children still inside the country are in need of help. The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, says that families have been pushed to the brink of despair. Nearly 12,000 children have been confirmed killed or injured in Syria since 2011. That's 1 every 8 hours. But the actual number is likely to be much higher, according to the United Nations. To make matters worse, the coronavirus has led to more negative coping mechanisms, including an increase in child marriage and children as young as 7 going to work. To make matters worse, the Syrian economy is also in tatters. The price of the average food basket increased by more than 230% last year, and more than 500,000 children under 5 are suffering from stunting as a result of chronic malnutrition. For Vatican News, this is Nathan Morley reporting.
Authorities in Bolivia have issued an arrest warrant for the former interim president who was in charge of the country for 11 months following the resignation of Evo Morales, who fled but has now returned. James Blaze reports.
The ex-Minister of Justice has been detained. Arrest warrants have been issued for the former Chief of Police and head of the armed forces, both of whom urged Evo Morales to resign as president and leave the country. But the principal arrest is of Jeanine Áñez, who was Bolivia's 66th president, ruling on an interim basis for almost a year. Detained earlier today in the city of Trinidad, she's been taken to the capital of Paz. Before this, she commented that this is a vendetta, saying, "The political persecution's begun. The movement towards Socialism Party has decided to return to the old style of dictatorship. A shame, because Bolivia doesn't need dictators, it needs freedom and solutions." After a change in the constitution, Evo Morales won a third and controversial presidential term. He'd already been president for 12 years. Unrest followed and he resigned and fled in 2019, first to Mexico and then to Argentina. But the Socialist Party known as MAS and his protege Luis Arce last October won a landslide victory in another presidential election. Morales, who insists he was forced out by gunmen who threatened to kill him and his family, returned from exile in December but currently holds no political office. Human Rights Watch warned that Bolivia's Congress passed a presidential decree last month authorizing the present government to go after former ones. These arrests have also been condemned by the Independent Permanent Assembly of Human Rights in Bolivia. The charges those arrested face are terrorism, sedition and conspiracy. For Vatican Radio, James Bliss reporting.
As vaccination campaigns kick off in some African countries who have received shipments of the COVID-19 vaccine under the COVAX initiative in recent weeks, the CEO of Caritas Ghana, Mr. Samuel Zan Akologo, encourages governments not to ignore the secondary impacts of the pandemic and calls for international solidarity in order to ensure equal access to the vaccines for all.
We need to think about the other related impact issues of COVID-19 and to see how African governments and other poor governments can be supported to deal with this. Clearly, as a public health issue, it has stretched our social services to the limit, especially health. And governments need a lot more resources to do this. So as Caritas Ghana, we are linking this up with a debt cancellation campaign. And happily, SECAM is supporting this and other Catholic organizations like the Jesuits Network in Africa. I think this is very important. Unless poor countries get a relief that will create physical space for them to invest in public social service, this problem is not going to go away anytime soon. Secondly, specific to the vaccines, we need to be thinking about how we can expand access to the vaccines. In my own view, I think that the best way to expand access would be to create the possibility of manufacturing vaccines at the local level. So African countries should be able to do this. But I'm aware that there is the issue of patent rights. And that's where we need international solidarity to see how these issues can be addressed to improve access and availability of the vaccine.
That was the CEO of Caritas Ghana, Mr. Samuel Zan Akologo, speaking there to Father Benedict Mayaki. In a landmark ruling, a Malaysian High Court has overturned a government ban on the use of Allah by non-Muslims, following a legal battle that dragged for more than a decade. A judge of the High Court in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday also allowed the use of other three words, saying the government directive clashed with the constitutional rights of religious freedom in the country. Robin Gomes has more on the story.
The ban against the use of word Allah by non-Muslims came after Malaysian authorities in 2008 seized from Malaysian Christian Jill Ireland Lawrence Bill 8 educational compact discs with the word Allah written on them at Kuala Lumpur airport when she returned from Indonesia. The authorities evoked a 1986 Home Ministry directive that forbade non-Christians from using the word, saying it was a threat to public order. Some radical Muslim clerics argued that using Allah was the exclusive right of Muslims and allowing Christians to do so could cause confusion and unrest. Bill then filed a petition with the Kuala Lumpur High Court for her right to use the word Allah for religious practices. In 2014, a court declared the confiscation unlawful and the CDs were returned to her in 2015. The Kuala Lumpur High Court ruled on Wednesday that Bill had the right not to face discrimination on the ground of her faith. In her decision, Justice Noor B. ruled that the word Allah, along with 3 other words of Arabic origin, Kaaba, Islam's holiest shrine in Mecca, Baitullah, house of God, and Solat, prayer, could be used by Christians. She said the directive that banned the use of the 4 words was illegal and unconstitutional. The freedom to profess and practice one's religion, she said, should include the right to own religious materials. The judge quashed the 1986 government directive, saying the Home Ministry had overstepped its powers. This is not the first time a Malaysian court has been divided over the use of the word Allah. In a separate case, the local Catholic weekly The Herald lost a legal battle in 2015 over the government order. Muslims make up about 60% of Malaysia's 32 million population, and Christians account for about 13%, making up the 3rd largest religious group. I am Robin Gomes.
And finally, Pope Francis will mark the 500th year of Christianity in the Philippines with a Holy Mass on Sunday in Rome's St. Peter's Basilica. It is believed that the first Mass was celebrated on Philippine soil on the 31st of March 1521 on the island of Limasawa, south of Leyte. The Catholic Church in the Philippines will formally inaugurate the year-long 5th centenary celebrations on Easter Sunday, the 4th of April. On that occasion, Archbishop Romulo Valles of Davao will open the holy door of pilgrim churches across the nation. The theme of the centenary is Gifted to Give. Speaking on the phone from Davao, Archbishop Valles explained to Vatican Radio the joy of 500 years of Christian faith in the country.
Faith is a gift from God, and so we are joyful in this special Jubilee year. And also, we are joyful because our experience is that faith has given meaning to life. In a sense, faith helps us to navigate through the journey of life. And also, let me add, it is a faith that is lived not only personally and as an individual, but also it is a faith lived in families. So beautiful. We are helped in our faith not only by individuals, but by families. Therefore, what does it mean to be a witness of faith in Jesus in Asia? I would like to use what Pope Francis would say. We witness our faith in Jesus in Asia by showing the joy of believing. It is joyful to believe and entrust our lives in Jesus. Life is difficult, especially in our country, but because of faith, it helps us to be strong. In spite of the storms of life, we are trustful. We can afford still to smile because we know that the Lord is with us. That is why we celebrate this special year with joy. Joy in the Lord, the joy of believing in the Lord.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican on World News. For more on these and other stories, and to hear this broadcast as a podcast, please be sure to visit our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. You can also catch the latest updates on our Facebook page or on Twitter. Many thanks go to Vincenzo Brodo in studio. In the Vatican, I'm Francesca Merlo.